All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, just prior to this current NBA regular season, I gave a list of who I view to be the most viable candidates to possibly be the recipient of this season's NBA regular season MVP award. I thought, and to a degree I still think, that Anthony Davis will most likely win the NBA's regular season MVP award, even though he's going to have to step it up a little bit. And you also have the LeBron James narrative. Steph Curry was one of my dark horses. I also entered Joel Embiid's name into the fray because he's very focused on possibly winning that award, and he still is a front runner. And of course, also Mr. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Well, after a very quick start to the NBA season, Anthony Davis kind of tailed off due to a very mysterious elbow injury. Steph Curry, he stepped to the forefront, and as we all know, he's down with an adductor injury. And that seems to have opened up things a bit for Mr. LeBron James, who we know is the liberal sports media's darling. His team, the LA Lakers, has started to pick up their play, as has he. As of right now, through 17 games, I would probably list him as the front runner for the NBA's regular season MVP award. As we all know, it's only been 17 games. The season's pretty much a little bit over a fifth of the way through. Steph Curry will be back relatively soon, and there still is time for Anthony Davis to make another run. But as of right now, LeBron James is the regular season MVP through 17 games. And this has instigated some debate between Stephen A. Smith and his partner Max Kellerman over whether or not only is LeBron James having an MVP type season, but is he playing the best basketball of his career? So of course they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
This is SportsCenter right now. I'm Anthony Collins. Mini reunion tour for LeBron James this week. The Lakers played the Cavs Wednesday. Last night they played the Heat. LeBron had not won in Miami since leaving in 2014. Well, that sure changed, making history along the way to American Airlines Arena Week.
You know, this game, I have to state, really surprised me in regards to LeBron's performance. As we can blatantly see, I'm referring to LeBron James' 51-point performance against his former franchise, the Miami Heat. The reason why LeBron's 51-point performance surprised me so much is because when you look over his list of performances since he left Miami, oftentimes he would either look to avoid playing in Miami or he would just not perform that well. But as I've stated in other videos, LeBron James is not weak. There's nothing weak about him. Now, he does have weaknesses, but he's not weak. And when you least expect it, that is when he is going to shine to the forefront. Once again, after I saw how he performed against the Boston Celtics in Game 6 of the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals in Boston, I would never, ever, ever try to imply that LeBron James is a weak person or that he's somebody who does not know how to rise to the occasion.
We go in the first quarter. James was feeling it from three. Here with some space. Step back three. That's good. Then a mismatch on Kelly Olynyk. The three is good, and once again on the step back three. Three, muy bueno. James heating up.
Once again, right now, and really as of the last 3 years or so, LeBron James is playing better basketball on the offensive end than he's ever played in his career. That's where he is at a level that he's never been at before, especially with the improvement of his long ball.
Up, Lakers up 13 after the first quarter. Now let's go to the fourth. 20 seconds left. LeBron with 48 points. Lance Stephenson dares LeBron to shoot a three. Guess what happens? James fires that one deep three. He is just the fifth player.
And once again, this is how Steph Curry has changed the NBA. Because prior to Steph Curry, there definitely would not have been that many players willing to pull up from 28, 29 feet like that.
In NBA history with a 50-point game for and against the franchise. The Lakers with a win. Here's LeBron after the game.
Well, Lance told me to finish the game off, and I bet you won't shoot a three. He said, go for the three. I bet you won't go for the three. So I went for the three. So I was pointing right at Lance.
Do you think it's smart to do it?
LeBron James is like that kid who feels like it's a great achievement to make friends with the bully.
Do you think it's smart to do everything Lance Stephenson bets you to do?
Yeah, that's my guy. Now we're on the same side. We're on the same side.
Now let's get you back to First Take.
LeBron going off for 51 in his return to South Beach last night. He becomes the fifth player in NBA history to score 50 points with three different teams, and only the second player to score 50 in his 16th season or later, right? Oh my goodness. Stephen A., is LeBron playing the best basketball of his career?
The answer to that is no. the best basketball of LeBron James' career was from about 2011 to 2013 with the Miami Heat, and it's not particularly close. The reason why I say that is because not only were his offensive efficiency numbers very high, but his defensive efficiency was exemplary as well.
I think he is. You can point to the 2012-2013 season. I think that was the second championship. He shot 40% from three-point range that year. That was his best. This is the best. This is his second best performance from three-point range. He said,
right, but Stephen A. Smith, they play on both ends of the court. It's not just about offense, it's about defense, Mr. Stephen A. Smith.
He's at 39.6% from three-point range. And the range, it's not like it's at the three-point line. Yesterday, he pulled up from 32 feet. That's what he's doing right now.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman brought up that LeBron James is actually a better long-distance three-point shooter than Steph Curry. And you became flummoxed by that.
You have to take into account the fact that when we point to how explosive he was when he was in his prime, obviously he had more spring in his step, and his jump shot was falling with a degree of regularity more that one particular season. Remember that back.
Stephen A. Smith, LeBron James's jump shot has never been better than it's been for the last 2 or 3 years. And I'm sure that certain people might have some metrics that they may try to assert, well, LeBron's jump shot was good in 2009 or 2010. Look, LeBron has never been as bad a jump shooter as people have tried to act like he was. But in regards to his overall offensive proficiency, I would say the last 3 to 4 years have been the best that I've seen him to the naked eye. Now, as an overall basketball player, there's no doubt in my mind, as an overall basketball player, his peak years were from his second year in Miami to his last year in Miami.
And back then, he had Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh to lean on. Therefore, the level of duress that came in his direction wasn't the same as it is now. Devoid of that secondary superstar on your squad or even the star on your team, everything is falling on your shoulders. And what are you doing to answer that call? You're averaging 28.8, about 7.7 rebounds, about nearly 7 assists per game. This man is on another.
Right, but what is he doing on the defensive end, Stephen A. Smith? And let me say this, he has been better defensively this year than he was last year. And I also think that the acquisition of Mr. Tyson Chandler has a lot to do with that. So he has been better on defense, but still he has not been good.
Another level. I said before the season began, it wasn't just about winning. He was going to try to put on an absolute show this year and put himself in a conversation for league MVP honor.
Well, he's definitely going to be in that conversation, Stephen A. Smith. The only question in regards to whether or not he's going to win the MVP award will be how soon Steph Curry comes back and how big of a bounce back will Anthony Davis have in coming back from that elbow issue that he's been having, as well as Mr. Joel Embiid. The Philadelphia 76ers are going to have to win at least 55 games, and Joel Embiid is going to have to average somewhere around 27 points, 13 rebounds, 2.5 blocks, something along those lines, for his name to be bandied about in the MVP conversation or consideration with any level of sincerity or truthfulness, because he will be the underdog, especially compared to the LeBron James narrative.
Honest, and Max, that is exactly what he is doing.
This is not the best LeBron James we've ever seen, but I forgive you, Stephen A., for thinking it is, because LeBron has evolved his game in such a way. You mentioned the distance at which he shoots the three. Not all threes are created equal, as Steph Curry has shown. The deeper you can shoot it from, if your team moves the ball, the more wide open looks other guys get, and the higher their shooting percentage should be from deep. And that's, the way the game is played nowadays. And I mentioned no one's better than LeBron at shooting it deep. You mentioned Steph Curry has more ability, but LeBron, by the numbers, shoots the very, very deep three as well as anybody.
Yes, you did say that, sir. So you deserve to pat yourself on the back for that.
So that is all true. And he has thought the game at an even higher level. He's always been a basketball genius, right? A savant. But in the last several years, and it shows up in the playoffs, LeBron James has been just losing his mind. But if you want it, so I get it. He's evolved his game in subtle ways, the way Michael Jordan in certain ways evolved his game. Who was better, the Jordan from the first three-peat or the second three-peat? He was a more complete player the second time.
Well, I think that Michael Jordan understood the game much better the second time around. Jordan in the first three-peat had far more of a diversity of skills. He was more proficient offensively because of his explosiveness. which he lost to a degree in the second three-peat. Even though he was still very explosive, he was arguably the most explosive athlete in the NBA, even in the second three-peat, arguably. But in the first three-peat, there was no doubt about it. His ability to beat his man to the basket made him such an incendiary threat that to me is not even really close in regards to which Jordan was better, the first three-peat or the second three-peat Jordan. Because the first three-peat Jordan, due to his potency in penetrating to the basket, his shooting percentages were higher. Like, a lot of people do not understand this. Jordan, in the late 80s, early 90s, was always shooting over 50%. And this is a shooting guard. Now, in the late 90s, his shooting percentages went down year by year. He was about 49.5, then 48.6, then 46.5%. And of course, that last season, he played the entire season with a broken index finger. Point being is this, that early 90s Jordan is on another level physically. The second three-peat Jordan was on another level mentally. But he acted as an ensample for his entire team, because the second three-peat team was on another level mentally from the first three-peat team. You didn't have a lot of the backbiting and the rivalries within the locker room on the second three-peat team that you had on the first three-peat team. Because most of the players on the second three-peat team were just happy to be there. They were just happy to be in the NBA. Guys like Steve Kerr and Luke Longley and Bill Wennington and Judd Buechler, these guys were cast-offs. Randy Brown. These were most of the Bulls' top bench players. Dickie Simpkins. They were just very happy and elated to be around Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. On the first three-peat team, it was much more athletic. You had guys like Horace Grant and Stacey King and Scott Williams and B.J. Armstrong. A lot of those guys were players who thought either that they should have been starting or that they were not getting enough touches. So that's why oftentimes, you'd have these issues in the Bulls locker room. But just getting back to the point, no, the first Jordan was better than the second Jordan. At least the first three-peat Jordan was.
But Jordan was more of an animal. He was more of a force of nature the first time. And that early Michael Jordan is the greatest player who ever played, including the late Michael Jordan, including this LeBron James. And the prime LeBron James is not this season. It was, as you pointed out, the second championship, his third season in Miami, when he discovered that spot from the right side where he basically couldn't miss the three. But it's not just the offense, Stephen A. Yeah, his PER was basically tied for the highest in his career, several points higher than it is now back then. PER is basically, in those advanced analytics, basically look at the offensive side of the ball, where even by those numbers, he was a little bit better then. Basically, as valuable now, just a different kind of player, but a little bit better then. But that's to say nothing of the defensive side of the ball.
Thank you, sir.
The fact of the matter is, playing for a Pat Riley franchise, Spoelstra, Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and those guys.
Absolutely, because Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra held him accountable. He was not allowed to, quote-unquote, play free safety so that he could save all of his energy for the offensive end and amplify his offensive proficiency numbers like he's been doing the last 3 years or 4 years with Cleveland and then this year in L.A. Why is that? Because LeBron understands that once he's gone from the league, all people are going to look at is how many points he scored, how many rebounds he had, how many assists he had, because that's all people care about. They're not concerned with the context around which you were able to accumulate those numbers.
LeBron James played wire-to-wire, all-time great defense. He was a great defender on multiple positions and a credible defender, at least I would say an incredible defender, on all five positions.
No, sir. And I have no idea why the media keeps promoting this narrative that LeBron James could guard all five positions. Please supply me with the footage of LeBron James being able to shut down one of the top centers in the NBA. And who would have been the top 4 or 5 men during that time period in the late 2000s when LeBron James was in his prime, or even the early 2010s? Is there any footage of LeBron James locking down Kevin Garnett or Tim Duncan or somebody like that, or Pau Gasol? Please provide it for me, because I've never seen it.
Not saying switching on all five, I'm saying you can defend all five positions at an elite level the entire season. So you have a guy whose offense is slightly different now, but whose defense was simply different back then. LeBron James' third season in Miami is one of the best defenders I've ever seen.
Well, LeBron James' third season in Miami, to be quite frank with you, is one of the top seasons in the history of the NBA. And I've stated that in numerous videos, probably not recently, but I mean, when I look at the top 5 seasons that I've ever seen a player have in regards to impact and how it related to his team's wins as well as stats, that season is right up there with Steph Curry's 2015-2016 season, with Shaq's 2000 season, with Jordan's 92 season. I mean, when you go and you look at the history of the NBA in modern times, that's one of the most impactful seasons ever. LeBron James' 2012-2013 season.
LeBron James has never defended consistently in terms of from first quarter to fourth quarter. He's always been elite when called upon to do so, because he can do that with his eyes closed. But there are many times, the difference between Kawhi Leonard, for example, and somebody like LeBron, Kawhi Leonard walked into the league opening tip-off, taking on the toughest defensive assignment from...
Well, Kawhi Leonard is different, Stephen A. Smith, because he had different expectations for when he came into the league. He made his bones through defense. LeBron never made his bones through defense. LeBron had expectations when he came into the NBA that he was going to be the person to carry the torch. And that's totally different from what Kawhi Leonard is right now. Kawhi Leonard is, he's Scottie Pippen with better offense.
From opening tap to the end of the game, that's who he's been. Whereas LeBron, because of the offensive responsibilities that he has had, has always managed it judiciously. But I will say this to you. At the end of the day, when I look at the Los Angeles Lakers right now, because of the personnel he has available to him, and because of how he's been called upon to bring these guys along, I'm going to tell you that right now what I'm seeing from him is incredibly impressive compared to a lot of the moments, if not almost all of them, because, well, not the earlier part with Cleveland, because we know how he carried that franchise. But this is indicative of that. When you're playing with D. Wade and Chris Bosh, and then Kyrie and Kevin Love and them, it's a difference between what you have to do right now, and I'm comparing it to that, not his early Cleveland days.
All right, we'll keep it moving.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how the narrative develops over the course of this season. I do believe that LeBron James, as usual, he most likely will not suffer a major injury. So he's going to finish within the top 3 of the MVP voting, and he may even win. So anyway, peace.